One of the things that Ted and I hit on very early, and we're not the first ones to come up with this, but keep it simple, the KISS principle. And if you want to get everybody moving in the right direction, you need to simplify, you need to distill, you need to get it down to what could be considered a best practice. And so this is why Ted and I were more pragmatists than purists regarding agile or any methodology for that matter. It's basically we were agnostic to those methodologies. Our goal was to create simple ways to get things done. And if you can do that, then you're already achieving best practice. The leadership takeaways for this video are keep it simple, and we're going to look at the simplicity quote. A lot of people think Steve Jobs came up with that, but it was really our friend Leonardo da Vinci that came up with the original version of that. But applying that idea, the Unified Vision Framework, which is part of Flow, is actually so simple you can draw it on a napkin, take it home with yourself or wherever. I can draw it on a napkin for a person over lunch, walk them through it. They can immediately go back to work and start using it. And then the three keys to success, and I see I have 4 check boxes here, but the 3 keys are knowledge, technology, and relationships. And we're going to talk about that. And then one of the slides will actually go through how that's reflected in the roles that we have in organizations, plus what you would see in Agile and or Scrum. I love this quote from Steve Jobs. Simplicity is the ultimate of sophistication. It's a really good quote, and it's very true. But he's not the one that really came up with the quote. We'll see that in just a second. It was actually our good old friend Leonardo da Vinci that came up with the original version of that, where he said, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. So, with whatever you're doing, if you're able to draw it on a napkin, hand it to a person, and they can go start using it, you've pretty much achieved simplicity. And that's actually what we did. We took the Unified Vision Framework that we use in Flow, which is a combination of this triangle with vision in the middle, the 4D model, and the VSPT model. This captures a good portion of our framework. And we had this printed up on napkins, and we've actually passed those out in the past as sort of a fun thing for people to look at it and go, oh, yeah, it is that simple. Explained on a napkin and delivered to the enterprise. VSPT is vision, strategy, people, and tasks. The line in between the VSPT is the disconnect that exists in every organization. And the VSPT is one of your first definitions because you need to start with vision. You need to have your vision first. And so then you start adding people with knowledge. And so we used to call that business content on the right side of the triangle there. And then you need people with the tools and technology experience to be able to help with the definitions. And traditionally, the business side and the technology side, they didn't communicate so great. And so that's why distill is at the bottom of the triangle, is you need to distill agreement between those two sides. And then they can start to deliver what's going to be useful in the way of a product, service, or result to the organization. Driving is linking back to the vision for each iteration. Are we one step closer to achieving the vision? So each iteration has a goal and an objective that should link to getting the team one step closer to delivering the vision. So the relationships are, we used to call that communication. If the relationships aren't there and aren't maintained in such a way and they break, then the right and left side of the triangles fall flat. And that's also why we put relationships up with on the drive side, because we're always linking everything back to what we're doing with vision. And so this is something that you can start to use immediately tomorrow in your work. You can look at your product backlog, go, oh, does our product backlog encompass the entire vision of what we're doing with the team in this product, service, or result? Do we have distilled agreement between the business content experts and the team, the Scrum team that's actually delivering? So on the knowledge side, that's probably going to be your product owner if you're thinking Scrum. And if on the tools side, you're looking at the Scrum team. Up there in relationships, you've got the Scrum Master, the facilitator, who's keeping all of the communication going and making sure that the team delivers, that we're double checking against the vision and driving and continuously defining, distilling, and delivering in an iterative process. But this is a leadership framework that sits above Scrum, and we're going to show that on another slide a little bit later. So as I already mentioned on the napkin, we already talked about this, about the business side, the technology side, and the relationship side. And one more thing on this triangle, the idea with the definitions and distillation is to create a laser focus on what you're delivering. So when you're distilling, you're actually looking at the sprint backlog, and then when you're delivering, you're actually going through the iteration. When you do the review and retro, that's actually driving, and so it becomes a complete iterative process from a leadership perspective. As I mentioned, on the business side, you've got the product owners, obviously, but you're also going to have the managers, business stakeholders, and line managers, subject matter experts, things like that are going to come from the business side. On the technology side, you're going to have the developers, the architects, QA testing, all of the different parts that you're going to need. Engineering, depending on if you're actually making a physical product for hardware, software, things like that. That's all on the technology side. On the relationship side, you're going to have Scrum Masters, project managers, resource managers, other stakeholders like HR, and so on, depending on the situation. And in the middle of this triangle, we also have the spirit, and that's both for the individual and for the teams. One of the things that Ted and I have emphasized down through the years is that flow is deceptively simple, but simple is not easy. If it were, each and every company would automatically be doing this. Our observation is they're not. Typically, when we show up, we see confusion, friction, and underperformance. And then we use the flow friction analysis to figure out what the source of the friction is. So don't be fooled by the simplicity of what we have, because we have distilled this and honed this and polished it for 25 years. And so what we make look simple, when somebody with less experience but has been trained goes and uses it, they'll go, oh, this is a lot harder than it looks. Okay, now I get it. And so that's the other thing, is it's deceptively simple, it's not easy, and you will find that out when you try to take this knowledge out of our books, out of our training videos, and apply it in real life. This is all great theory until you mix people in. And so this is both an art and a science. Okay? And we've distilled this framework and these models from the actual real world fires of projects and assignments that we've been working on. So while we talk a lot about theory, this works. It's not simple. It is simple, and it's not simple at the same time. And it's definitely not easy. Once again, the idea is to keep it simple and bring it down to the most simple process that you can get to. You distill it, you hone it, and you experiment, and then you distill and hone again. And when you keep doing that over and over again, eventually you'll have something that's simple and that works. Now, the application of this is people look at this and go, oh, well, yeah, this makes sense. Well, of course it makes sense. We've spent 25 years honing this and getting it to the point of simplicity, but put together in a way so that you have easy to remember models, tools, frameworks, and mindset that you can actually use in your everyday work. Because it's deceptively simple, something that you should think about as you're going through all these videos is how would you defend the use of flow for yourself, your team, your product, and or organization. One thing that we've noticed down through the years is simple is not easy. If it were, everybody would be doing it. So, what steps can you take, even today, to simplify what you're doing? And second follow-up question to that is how would you distill that into something that you can use?